So knowing where to get into the weaves has less to do with the weave poles and more to do with like basic handling rules. So the basic rules are, if I'm on the left or I'm handling on my left, my dog's on my left hand side, my dog knows to take the obstacles, basically staying on my left hand side, right? We're just traveling together, dog and me, left hand side. Same thing with the right hand side. The other basic rule is I don't want the dogs cutting across my body. So my dogs are either always slightly behind, chasing me, or I'm sending them forward. Don't want my dogs cutting across my body. So that's why doing like the circle work, the shadow handling and all that stuff is extremely important. You need to build a really rich reward history, lots of value for staying on the correct side, unless you cue them to do otherwise. So you cue them to do otherwise with like your handling moves, your front crosses, rear crosses, blind crosses, and certain systems. Or you can also cue them, basically, this is a threadle, to take the opposite or permission to cut across your body. That's how I use threadles, either take the opposite or permission to cut across my body. So the dog needs to know those basic rules. Stay on the left unless you're told to go on the right. Stay on the right unless you're told to go on the left. Like, they need a lot of value and they need to understand that. When you're looking at weave pulls, I like to imagine an imaginary line here, basically your obstacle commitment zone. And the same with most other obstacles. And for the weaves, I also like to imagine this imaginary line here. So how I get them in the poles depends where I'm coming from and where I'm going to. If I'm here, my dog's on my left-hand side, and I want my dog to come in here, this would just be a go weave, because the rules say stay on my left-hand side, my handling rules, and the weave rules are always enter first pole with left shoulder. So that would bring him here. If I was wanting my dog to, let's say, come in this way, I would give my threadle cue. So permission to take the opposite. The obvious is this one. The rules say go here. Permission to take the opposite and permission to cut across my feet is a threadle. So that tells them to come in this way. Let me draw some new poles quickly. So if I wanted my dog to, so we're in the same spot here, dog's on my left. If I wanted my dog to, for some reason, come across here and go in this way, don't know why, but for some reason, I didn't want to send them on this line. I wanted them to do this. I would need basically a bypass cue. In the handling system I use, Jessica and Justine, Shape Up Dog, it's your obstacle bypass cue, your flappy tappy, that says ignore everything and just chase me. And basically in the system, the default is to chase me, so you really don't have to do much. Dog chases you, and then once I get here, I'll give my threadle cue, because now if my dog's on my left, I'm here, and my dog basically has to almost cut across my body. You don't always need a threadle here, but I like to just do it for being obvious and staying consistent. But an easier way to handle this is if my dog is, so here are your poles again. If we're here, dog is on my left, and I want it to come around this way, the easiest thing would be to do a front cross, right? So dog's on your left, you turn into your dog, front cross, change the side. So now my dog is on my right. And if I wanted to come in here, now it would just be simply go weave, because rules of weave pulls, always enter first pole left shoulder, and rules of handling, enter on the side that you're on. right? So now the dog's on the right, coming here. If I wanted to push my dog after the front cross all the way here, essentially, if we go back to imagine this imaginary line here, this commitment line, I would want to pass this line here and pass this line here before I told my dog go weave. Because if I just came here and I said go weave, if I was just here and said go weave, my dog would come into here. If I was here and said go weave, and remember dog's on the right now, or dog's on the right, so dog's on the right because it was on the left. We did a front cross, we came over here, dog's on the right. Technically, go weave means come all the way up here and go here because of weave pull rules and handling rules. Don't want my dog cutting across my feet. But when you're in any ambiguous zones like here, I always like to pass this imaginary line first and then cue. And honestly, for a lot of dogs, the imaginary line with the weave pull after the entry. Just make it really clear. So they know now, oh, we passed this, so now technically we got to go in here. So it's really less about the weave pulls themselves and more about your basic handling rules. Stay on the left, stay on the right. Don't cut across my feet unless you're told otherwise. Another scenario. So let's say my dog is, oh, I don't want that arm. Dog's on my right. This arm. So now my dog's on my right. If I want my dog to come here, I would have to give my threadle because it's permission to either cut across my feet, but in this situation, go the opposite. So if my dog's on my right, my dog would be thinking, ooh, we're going in this way. I'm on my right. She says weave, closest pulls. But if I want them to go this way, I'm going to give my threadle cue, which is basically take the opposite. And in weave pulls, the opposite here would be coming all the way up here. And then with pulls, since you have 12 and it's fairly long, as much as possible, I always like to, again, where's my black marker? I like to come past this line and make it super obvious. Because I don't want my dog guessing, because whenever my dog has to think and guess and make a decision, they're slower. So I'd be coming up here if I could. Sometimes you can't. That's why we practice really far away stuff. Sometimes you get stuck. Sometimes there's a dog walk in the way or something. But as much as possible, I want to pass these commitment lines.